Facebook group that I'm in to just kind of gather some info so I could just be more available to my clients. And so I just said, hey, what is it like for you, right? What are you struggling with right now? And I wanted to share some of those things that they said with you because I'm going to guess that it's similar for you. And so they said, here's really the obvious. Dr. Gish, you mentioned a few of the things that are not happening. You know, we're able to get food. We have the internet. Thank God. I don't know what we would do without the internet right now, but we know that, but not all of us do. And some of it's affecting us in some ways. So it doesn't really look like our whole world is rocked, but it's being rocked, right? Is your world being rocked right now in ways? Yes, your way of life is being rocked. And so some of the things that they said was, I'm adjusting to a new lifestyle. There's nothing really normal about my day now. I have a different time that I have to get up in the morning. I have a different routine to prepare. Even I'm wearing different clothing. And I'm having a hard time not seeing people and not being at a certain place at a certain time in the way that I was. My routines are gone. Now, if somebody would have suggested to us way before this ever happened that having your routine changed would feel traumatic, I don't know if I would have agreed with that or you would have agreed with it. But look what's happening. Our lifestyle, our daily, the stuff that we set in place so that we don't have to think so much, that's not there right now. We're thinking a lot more than we were before. So I'm kind of going off of my list here. Some other things that the folks said that they were struggling with: the sense of isolation, the sense of not having folks there with us now, the worry about being ill, the worry about their family members being ill, what's going to happen, the future, boredom, and boredom in a way that is really making it difficult for them to use their old routines and their old techniques and their old ways of getting distracted in a healthy way. So maybe going to the coffee shop to get your favorite coffee to make your study time better was one of the ways that you helped yourself kind of get through. Now that's all different now. Very sad about the coffee shop, by the way. Really liking the curbside pickup. Then there's worry about finances and about our future. There are worries about your longer term future as students. How is this going to affect me? What am I going to do with this? What's it going to look like at the end of the semester? What's it going to look like? Do I sign up for classes and for summer? What is fall going to be like? What about my living? So all of those questions and all of those decisions that feel like we need to be making those decisions without enough info, that's a lot. And that, I think it's the collective that really sort of adds to our experience of overwhelm. And so trauma, I use the term subtle trauma and overt trauma to kind of help folks understand the difference. So when you're talking about the books that you were reading where there's violence, there's like physical violence, and there's betrayal. So those are, so physical, what was the book that where someone had to kill a family member? Which one was that?
Ita.
Okay. And so in that situation, they're being forced to kill a family member?
Yes, because it was his duty in life to be a warrior, and he had to battle a group where his cousins and family members were on the other side of the war.
Okay, what a dilemma, right? And so we're having those kind of dilemmas now. So overt trauma is the is the facing the potential death or potential harm to themselves, right? And then the subtle trauma is that psychological angst that I I have to decide whether I betray my values, whether I betray my people, whether my people will reject me forever. So rejection, betrayal, those are traumatic experiences psychologically that are too big for us to work through. So in my practice, I specialize in helping folks work through those subtle traumatic experiences. And so what I want, I guess one thing that I really want to help you consider right now is the fact that you're probably experiencing a variety of subtle and overt traumatic things right now. And what is really, really important is for you personally to acknowledge what those are for yourself. Acknowledge them. So we're kind of moving into I just listed a bunch of possible feelings that you may be having and struggles that you may be having right now personally. I think the most important piece of advice that I can give to you right now to begin to help you heal in this time and this traumatic experience, in addition to whatever was going on in your life before, because there was a lot going on before this happened, is to take a little bit of time to be really honest with yourself about how is this affecting me? How is this affecting me? How do I feel? What am I worried about? What is scary to me? How am I doing? How am I handling my worries, my fears, my struggles? How is this affecting me? So that makes me need to take a deep breath. I encourage you to do a deep breath if you can. There's a tendency for us all, right now, I've heard a lot of this. There's a tendency for us to not be clear on where our focus should be. This is a global pandemic. It is literally affecting everyone. And so it can make you feel a little bit loosey-goosey, kind of a little bit lost in the storm, so to speak. And so what I want to encourage you to do for yourselves, at least right now, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Is bring your attention back to you. I'm even looking at your sweet faces on the screen above. If you can still see your face on the screen, put your eyes on your own face for just a sec. Can you do that? Yeah, I see it happening. For just a couple minutes, I want you to consider that person. That person. And just while you're considering the person on the screen, your own face, I want you to think about the answers to a couple questions. You ready? Doing a little experiential therapy right now. Okay. First one is broad and simple, and you don't have to say it out loud. Probably be confusing if you do. You certainly can write it down, or you certainly could write it out later in a journal. First one is, how am I experiencing this pandemic? All right, big word, but you're in college. You can handle it. How am I experiencing it? Yeah. Let me go a little deeper. Ask yourself, what feelings do I have? Have I been having? Hint, it could be a big bunch of them. And they don't have to match. They can feel competing. Somebody's right. Mary Beth's writing. She's a genius. Yeah. Writing it down can be super helpful. What have I been thinking about the pandemic? And when I say that, you've been thinking a lot. But are there some thoughts that you keep sort of going to? Some standard thoughts, some patterned thoughts? Probably they're connected with feelings, right? Got that? Just kind of letting that fly through, right? Another question: how is this affecting my life, my lifestyle? How is the pandemic affecting my lifestyle? Yeah. Big risk here. I can see your beautiful faces, and we're all up in a therapy session right now in mass. I want you to know that. I'm being kind of quiet because this is what we do in therapy. We just kind of hold the space. We gently go there. We let those thoughts come up. We let the feelings come up. We don't have to be overwhelmed. See how we're doing it we're doing it very intently, but we're doing it in hunks. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, just a little bit. So you asked yourself questions. You had responses, but you didn't really have answers, right? So that's just sort of the beginning. Okay, just the beginning. The rest of the answers to this question then are for you to begin to explore. And how would I suggest you explore that? You do it by some writing, if you can, with some journaling. You do it by discussing with friends, peers, partners. So stay in touch. Stay in touch. And when I say stay in touch, talk about this stuff that matters to you. And with your peers, if you have some friends or some people that you can talk to that can make an agreement with you, that will take turns. I'll say mine, then you say yours, because neither one of us have to have answers. We just need to say it. We just need to be heard. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So if you notice some things that keep coming up that you know are bigger than what you can do, bigger than what will get worked out by saying it to a trusted friend, like someone on your same level, then you do what you've always known to do since you were teensy weensy weensy. You go get help, right? You go get help. You talk to someone that you think might have some ideas for your particular situation. Now, no one's going to know everything about everything. Now, like no one's an expert on how to survive a pandemic and be okay. But different people have different help available to different situations. So there are plenty of mentors all around us if we can know what we're struggling with and be able to ask for it specifically. Does that make sense? Asking specifically is the trick. And so how to heal in traumatic times is super simple. Slow down. Find out what you need. Find out what you're feeling. Find out what's hurting. Find out what's scary. Find out how you are experiencing this. What's too big for you? What does too big look like? And then share because that's the release. That's the catharsis. That's the talking it out. A lot of the stuff gets resolved just by saying it out loud instead of keeping it in here. So you try that, and you write it. By the way, if you don't feel like you have a lot of peers, and we're going to talk about a list here in just a sec, writing it out to yourself in a journal or on your cell phone. If you've got one of those recorder apps where you can record yourself talking, if you record yourself talking and then listen to it back, it'll do the same thing. It'll do the same thing as a trusted friend might do in terms of the releasing of the feelings. And then the next piece, of course, is problem solving. What am I personally struggling with? What do I need help with? Who can help me? And then you go down the problem and solution track that you're very, very familiar with. So that's all it with a bow, right? Easy button. It's not easy. because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of time and a lot of faith, I guess, safety, trust in yourself to do this. Those are my recommendations for what you do. And that's the part, I think, that we desperately need to be doing well, that we desperately need to be doing better, that we haven't been doing well. And so that's really one of the biggest reasons that we talked about speaking to students around the reading the traumatic material in the first place. What, 2 years ago? Did we do the first one 2 years ago? Yeah. Was because this being able to know ourselves and pay attention and take care on this sort of micro level isn't a well versed habit for us. I guess it's kind of a cultural thing. And so my encouragement to you, first things first, do your part to find out how you're doing. And then with the problem solving piece, we're getting a lot of resources available on the news and on social media. Dr. Gish, I had a list of possible other like books and other resources that could help with the problem solving piece too. Do you have that available?
I have that, and what I can do is I can post,
or I can email it.
Comments.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I'll do that and people can see it in the comments.
Okay.
So, and did you want me to follow up with some questions, or do you have more to say now?
Yeah, I just want to say one more little piece. If you're not already familiar with what therapy and what coaching can do, that's one of the number one resources. When I say a trusted person, so a trusted mentor, a parent, or someone that you consider sort of wise ahead of you in life and could offer some suggestions to you. A professor. Teachers are full of help, way beyond just the practical about the course kind of stuff. There are folks within your church communities and your social organizations. There are therapists, there are life coaches, there are social media groups that you can join to and shout out. You just got to obviously filter through. If you're really needing advice, you want to make sure you make a good choice about what is best for you in terms of your advice and in terms of your guidance. And so just don't be afraid to find out exactly what you really, really need, and then make the investment in getting that. Be sure that you do that for yourself. And because you'll thank yourself later. It's very much like an investment, and kind of like going to the doctor earlier rather than waiting later, and then you have more complications. So I just want to encourage you to make sure that you consider doing that. That was sweet.
Laurie, what would you say to people who say, like, look, how really, like, my parents maybe weren't very nice to me, or I was, kids made fun of me at school, or being away from my friends all of a sudden at college just feels really awful.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, am I really, just talking about that in terms of trauma really makes sense? Like, isn't trauma really when you get, like, attacked on the street, or it's Hurricane Katrina, or someone, your friend dies? Like, isn't that really trauma? Like, if it means all bad things or all difficult things doesn't mean anything, how would you respond to that?
I would say that if you're still thinking about it, however many years later, like the bully experience, for example, if you're still thinking about it and it's a bad feeling that you have that comes up and lots of things remind you of it, that means you're not done with it, right? It's like a dream that keeps replaying until it makes sense for itself. And so you don't have to be completely aware of the intensity of emotion for it to still be bugging you, for it to still be driving your bus, you know, and be there impacting your decisions. And, you know, so we learn through pain. Pain teaches us a lot of things. It's an opportunity to learn. And that's a critical thing to remember right now. Um, so, so there are, I mean, I've had a lot of personal traumatic experiences, just as I would guess that each one of you have. I don't think that there's anyone that doesn't, actually. So when we're talking about trauma, we're talking about unresolved stuff that's still not been worked out, and it's causing some problems. A lot of times someone will say to me, I said blah 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 for no apparent reason, or I did blah 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 for no apparent reason. That's my therapist clue that that's about something that hasn't gotten worked out. They don't understand what's driving their bus. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's sort of like trauma is something that stays with us that is unresolved.
Yeah.
And that can be something something really hurtful that a parent said to us that kind of stays with us, or it can be these big awful things. But the point is that it stays with us, and we have to find a way to release it and resolve.
And it's very personal. It's very personal to each individual. So what really messed with me may not have messed with my brother, for example. We grew up in the same house, right? Some aspects of our life that were really hard on him, you know, I could kind of handle those okay. They didn't bug me the way that they did him. You know? And so again, that's why I had you look at your face and think about you, because what you're experiencing now is relevant to you. What you're bringing to the table is what you have that's your primary concern. It's your primary responsibility. And so you all came into the pandemic with stuff, probably with pain that you were still sort of working on. So it is not just childhood pain, and it doesn't mean that we have to be a big bunch of folks that are not strong, right? It doesn't mean that we're not strong. It just means it's not done, and what isn't done will keep showing up until we work it out.
I want to thank you so much. I wanted to open it up to questions from the group. You're welcome to put them in the messages to me, and I can ask them, or you can verbally say them. We'll give people a minute. Why folks are thinking, because I imagine people are typing. I wonder if you could talk, Laurie, just about one or two resources. I put a bunch of resources in the comments or in the chat, but it's a lot. I wonder if people were saying, you know, I have a lot of unresolved stuff and I'm not really sure what to do. Aside from reaching out to a therapist, can you make suggestions about a book or two that people might begin to like look at, or a website that you found really helpful?
And I made a list of more resources beyond what I'd given you earlier. So I'm just going to read off of my page here too. So it depends on, of course, what you need, right? What resources or what tools that you need to help you work through those depends on the nature of your problem. But there's a book. I see it. You see it right behind your head.
Oh.
The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yep, I'm getting it. Sort of.
So, I mean, if you are having more, if y'all are having more time on your hands now than less, which I know that's happening for many people, and you want to kind of get to know yourself a little bit better, especially if you're having any kinds of anxiety symptoms, they're manifesting physically. That book, that little nugget, has changed thousands of lives, probably millions, including me. I'm on the list. And I'll tell you, it teaches you how to pay attention to your physical body, and that will give you clues as to what your emotions are. It's almost like we have to go backwards. You know, when I think healing, if we've had a lot of trauma, we've checked out from our body, we have to sort of relearn that. And so that's what that book's about. It's about noticing your physical experience. That'll help you get more clear. That'll help you get more clear. Yes, better.
That's better.
On your emotions, and then on your thinking, and a lot of our thinking is habitual, and so it will help you break out the sort of the negative thinking patterns that you have and what you're actually believing. So I digress. Yes.
We have two more questions that came in the comments to me. And the first one is, are there foods that can help people, that people can eat, that help calm them down? Calming foods.
Good question. Tea, I guess. I think that, yes, that would be one piece of an overall big picture of what we can be doing to calm ourselves down. In general, I can tell you what to avoid in terms of food is obviously caffeine and a bunch of sugar and a bunch of carbs, because that's going to ramp up our blood sugar and then drop it. We're going to be doing this, right? And so we want to try to level out. So foods to avoid is all the yummies and all the intensity. We're wanting to try to kind of bring our level of peace and relaxation, I suppose, down. We want to kind of ground a little bit, and so anything that's not going to rev you up is probably better.
I have another question. And it's about how students can cope without being in in-class meetings, that like how to stay motivated when you're just like stuck in your house all the time. You're not having your normal routine. You don't have your friends. You don't have like a lot of students don't have any synchronous classes to go to where they meet together. It's all just online. So how do people how should people stay motivated and cope with that stress?
Yeah, love that question. I've actually been living that life here. So I have kids at home, and we're really struggling to learn this. And so I've screamed this suggestion, literally screamed it every day this week, I think. But I strongly encourage you to literally write out a schedule for yourself. If you're in quarantine, which I would expect most of you are, and you're not leaving regularly for work or whatnot, do yourself a favor. It may seem crazy and silly and unnecessary. Do yourself a favor and write out a schedule. And it may be that it changes each day. But if you'll write it out and include in your schedule your times that you're on in class meetings or on other meetings, include work time where you need to complete work tasks, and then include some walking and health. Get outside if you can. We've got nice weather ish lately. Include movement, even if it's in between. We're doing a lot of sitting right now that many of you are not used to doing. I'm not. And so get up and move, even if it's 5 minutes in between. Pay really close attention to brain fatigue and emotion fatigue. One of the things I'm hearing more than anything else is how tired we are. It slays us that this is so tiring. For whatever reason, y'all, it's just an exhausting experience, what we're doing here, this adapting. And so build into your schedule a time to rest. I've taken naps 2 or 3 times a week, and that's helped me a lot. I have functioned much better with the nap. And so I've been building that into the schedule, or I'll build flex where I'll either do my work. I'll just, if I get up in the morning and I'm not feeling freshest in the morning, I'll do my more sort of relaxed stuff in the morning and my more serious work time in the afternoon. Does that make sense? Very intentional scheduling. Schedule time for socializing. And so it sounds a little contrived. It's certainly different than what we normally do. But if you're not the kind of person that naturally reaches out, or you're not feeling comfortable reaching out, if you write it on your schedule and sort of make it an intention, you're more likely to do it. And so I've been using Marco Polo with Dr. Gish and with some other friends. And I've given myself like a time frame to make sure that I get back, that I respond within, because I can tend to not. And so, you kind of make some deals with yourself about what's difficult for you in terms of socializing and what you're struggling with personally. For example, I do real good with text, not as quick with Marco Polo, but I give myself like a 24-hour window. Terrible about calling my friends just to talk to them. I don't know why. I just know that that's the case. So you kind of go through what are my tendencies here and what do I need? I'll tell you what I need. I need to talk to somebody on the phone once a day, right? Challenge is I'm doing my work on the phone. And so then I have to schedule in my friend and family connection time. So you hear the sort of the process I'm going through. It sounds like just stuff that we would normally think through and just resolve like that. And so it's taking a lot more intention now. So that's a long answer, but it's critical. This deciding what you'll do with your time and then checking in and seeing how you're doing as it's going. And then if you need to change that schedule, you do. And so you're just doing a lot of decision making, big and small. And that's why we're so tired right now.
Good. We have a question about how to keep from relapsing with agoraphobia.
Wow. If you can get outside, that's your best bet. Get outside, get in front of a screen. If you can open the windows right now, anything that you can do to give yourself broad space. If it's dark in your room, get some light in there. Darkness usually closes us in. Even wear lighter clothing, very practical. As I use essential oils, it'll lift the scent, use citrus, use lifting scents. Move. Make sure that if you struggle with agoraphobia, get up more than once an hour and move around. Stand in front of the window if you can't get outside. Right? Try to focus on the openness that is available to you within the house.
We have another question. When we know it'll take a long time to recover from a traumatic event, how can we help ourselves in the moment?
So that little practice that we did this morning, or just not this morning, it feels like a really long time ago that we started. So that little practice that we did in the beginning where you turn your attention to yourself. And in this experience, you have the screen and you have your pretty face on there. So we use that. If we were in session, I would have folks close their eyes, lean their head back, do some yoga breath, put hands on heart, hands on solar plexus here, hands on belly. Those are all ways to tune in. You gotta tune in to you in this moment. And so if that's doing a yoga class in your house to learn to breathe well, a guided meditation, there are just thousands of those out there, just to learn to breathe, use your body to notice how you are. Does that answer the question? I kind of forgot the question.
Yeah, that was if we have a traumatic event that will take a long time to recover, what do we do right now? And I think that touches on it. This comes from someone in the group who's also a practitioner, but I think it could also apply to any of us. How do we help people with things when we struggle with them ourselves? So I know we have a couple practitioners in the group, so the question comes from that. But also our friends and family, how do we also support them when it's something that we're not even sure what we're doing?
Great question. Actually, I had a friend who was doing he was forcing himself to connect last night. He's a practitioner, and he asked me the same thing. So we do the same thing that we practice what we preach. We practice what we preach. And so I'm just going to read to you. I'm going to read you this text that he asked me and my response, because it answers his question perfectly. He said, and I'll just give a little more info. He has a history. He works with folks in addiction recovery, and he has a history in that himself. So it's quite critical that he practice, that he stay, it's just absolutely critical that he takes care of himself now. And so he said, what are you doing for self-care? Let me find it. Sorry. And I said, so the assumption, he and I both know we're not immune to this business ourselves. What are you doing for self-care is in the therapist community, like the hot topic. And so I'll tell you what I'm doing personally is remembering that I'm in a time of trauma. I am spending time in the morning, extra time, checking in. How is this affecting me personally? Like really I'm feeling a certain way. What's that about? Spending some time journaling. I'll tell you, I've been doing a fair amount of crying, of releasing. I've been using my my journaling thingy. I've been saying my feelings to peers. I have a therapist that I can connect to when I need to. Reached out to her today. Talk to my family. The schedule stuff that I told you about, I'm doing that. And then I'm checking and seeing where's it going off the rails? Where's it getting funky? I'm taking naps, y'all. Pretty frequent naps. And going outside a lot and walking a lot. Limiting my exposure to news for me personally. I get very, very overwhelmed very quickly. Always have way before this. But I have to be uber careful. I don't look at social media at certain times during the day. I check my vulnerability, like how much energy I have. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think with that, we have exhausted all the questions. But this was really helpful. And I posted Laurie's contact information. If you think of questions, the contact information is in the group chat. I also posted a lot of the resources that she shared in the group chat. For my students, I'll share those resources with you via email. And what I'll do is I'll include those resources when I send out the video recording of this. I'll include those resources. It will go to all faculty and staff. So if you're a staff member or a faculty member, you can access it. And then if you're a student, just ask any of your faculty members if you can, if they can just forward that on to you, and they'll have access to it. So thanks so much, everyone.